Okay, I actually took a break for lunch. I'm not even joking when I say that. Okay. Now, one thing I forgot to mention earlier. After I got my associate's degree, I took a class. I went to get my bachelor's degree, and I took a class called victimology. Victimology, is the study of the victim. Who is the victim? Why are they the victim? What can they do to prevent being the victim? The victimology class was instructed by a retired New York State courts sergeant. Now, the courts sergeant is, in my state, is in charge of courtroom security. He is the head security officer of the courthouse, courtroom, court premises. And he is represented by the court officer. Now, this class was a very, very interesting class. The professor was a great professor. He would do PowerPoint, do all the notes, and you would see the notes on PowerPoint instead of writing them down from his mouth. And the next day he would print out the notes and give you Xerox copies of the notes. He asked us to do a reaction paper, which means we spent half of a term paper writing about what we learned in the class, and the other half criticizing it. I think this is great, I think this sucks, I think you should have mentioned this, etc. I also had to do an oral presentation, any topic, and I chose domestic violence. Now, from the class lesson, I was able to write down all the things the victim should do for my reaction paper. And my seminar term paper, I printed that. I took cliff notes out of that, and that was my oral presentation. The class lesson, and some people are going to disagree with me. The class lesson, some people are going to disagree with some of the things I'm going to say. And in fact, I myself disagree with a couple of points. But this is what the experts say. Okay? And my friend the clock telling me that it's 2:30. Okay, the lesson outline points out. Okay. Now, the victim of today's criminal justice system has to simply call 911 and the police will get involved. I talked about that in the last chapter of this video series. While the victim is living with the offender, the victim should keep all emergency numbers posted. I, first and foremost, am going to disagree with this. If you have the number for the battered wife's shelter on your refrigerator, A, he's going to beat you up more often and harder. B, if you're gone, where's he going to go to look? The battered wife's shelter. So I'm going to contradict this, and I'm going to say do not post emergency numbers. The emergency number in your head is 911. And other numbers like battered wife's shelter, whatever, try to have those memorized, not written down if possible. The victim should work out a signal for a neighbor to call police. In other words, if this light is left on in the guest bedroom for more than 10 minutes, call the police. If this window is left open for 20 minutes, call the police. And there's a signal, this plant in this window, this towel hanging from this window, there's a million signals. The victim's car should not be blocked in the driveway and should have a full tank of gas at all times. The victim should teach children a signal to call 911 if the need arises. The victim should have a spare set of keys in the event the main set is kept by the offender. This is keys to the house and keys to the car. This is a lot easier said than done. In fact, most of it is. Because today you got the little remote. It's very hard to get a copy of that. But if it's possible to get a copy of the car key without the offender knowing about it, do that. And keep it hidden. Wherever you got to put it, keep it hidden. There goes my friend the clock again. The victim should have at least 3 escape locations in the event one location is discovered or difficult to reach. That means your house is here. You have a location here, a location here, and a location here. And you have, in case this guy's not home, in case she's on vacation, in case the friend that knows about this one, you have 3 or more locations to go to. And they could be a friend's house, they could be your church, they could be the police station, they could be your job, any location that you can go to. The victim should know their legal options lawyers. Not everybody can afford a lawyer, but try to know your legal options. Legal options include parental advice, financial rights, protection by the legal system, restraining orders. What will the system do for you? How will the system protect you from the abuser? The victim should have their own post office and safety deposit boxes. This is what you do for money. You put money in there, you put car keys in there, you put restraining orders in there, you put phone numbers in there, you put medical records in there, you put birth certificates in there, you put high school diplomas in there. That's what that's for, and it's kept in a safety deposit box or in a post office box away from the home. Also, maybe your mother wants to send you an airline ticket so you can get the hell out of town. That is kept there. The victim should have cash, clothing, important documents, and other items they deem necessary outside the home, preferably at one of the locations or in the safety deposit box. Listen very carefully now. A lot of people have said that if your husband beats the shit out of you, you should have a suitcase in the house. And in this suitcase, you should have clothing, toothpaste, shampoo, high school diploma, driver's license, car keys, cash, plane tickets, okay? Photographs of him beating the shit out of you, okay? Here's the deal. If he finds it in the house, you're in trouble. Keep it out of the house. Give it to your priest. Give it to your lawyer. Give it to your friend. Keep it away from the house. Keep it at one of your safety locations. A lot of victims like to take pictures of themselves or videotape their face. This is what he did to me. He just beat the shit out of me. Look what he did. He gave me a black eye. He gave me a split lip. That is good. But keep it locked up away from him. Because when he finds it, he destroys it and he destroys you. The victim should practice their escape. Okay. Once the offender and the victim have parted, there are several additional guidelines to follow. The victim should keep copies of all protective orders at all times. That means restraining order, any order that the judge gives you, keep. The victim should provide copies of all protective orders to employers, schools, landlords, or any other supervisor that is required to provide a safe atmosphere. That means your boss is required to protect you. Now, my professor, the court sergeant, there were many times when court liaisons, court reporters, and stuff like that came to him and said to him, "This is my boyfriend, he beat me up, this is a restraining order." And the professor would print out the picture of the boyfriend, give it to his officers, and tell them, "This guy comes in the building, arrest him. No reason, just arrest him." The only way that guy was allowed in that courthouse is if he was on trial for a crime. And if he was on trial for a crime, the court sergeant, my professor, would assign a court officer to protect the victim and would keep the victim away from the area where the offender was going to be standing trial. You work in a supermarket, give the restraining order to your store manager and your head store detective. If your offender comes, they are required to arrest him. Same thing goes for your building's landlord. The same thing goes for your kid's school principal. Give them the note. You don't have to tell everybody, but just tell your supervisor and your security team, "This is the guy, keep him away from me. I have a restraining order." The victim should change the locks on the homes, whether it is their old home that the offender has moved out of or the new home that they have moved into. The victim should keep all doors locked at all times, including but not limited to home, car, office, etc. The victim should seek counseling for any emotional, substance abuse, or other problems. The most important guideline of all, the offenders should remain ignorant of all activities listed above. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. I'm going to do the stop and I'm going to go back.